Chapter 1. Introducing Thordric. "I'm telling you, Inspector, he's a sensible young man." Thordric heard Inspector Jimson sigh. His mother had been in the inspector's office for over an hour, trying to negotiate with him to get Thordric a job at the station. "I don't doubt it, Maggie, but there's no denying what he is." The inspector lowered his voice so that Thordric had to strain to hear. "He's a half-wizard for spell's sake. If it ever got out that one of his kind was working here—" "His kind? Inspector, I assure you that particular part of him is completely under control," his mother retorted. Maggie, think of what you're asking me to do here. You know you're the best pathologist I could possibly hope for, and I wouldn't want to do anything to upset you. But the reputation of the station house—" There was silence for a moment. "I just can't let the boy work here." Thordric heard one of the chairs scrape back. "Then you're not the man I thought you were," his mother said. The door to the office opened and she walked out, holding her head high and clacking her high heels with proud deliberation. "Come on, Thordric, let's go home." Thordric got up, a mix of relief and disappointment filling his stomach. They turned to go, but then the office door opened again. The inspector walked out, eyeing Thordric up with a twitch of his bushy mustache. Thordric tried not to gulp under the inspector's scrutinizing gaze. "He's hired," the inspector said abruptly. "Starts work tomorrow morning, 7:30 on the dot. Don't let him be late, Maggie." "Thank you, Inspector," his mother said. Thordric thought he saw a smile flicker across her lips. Later that day, she took him to the tailor to get his uniform measured. As he was only to be the inspector's runner, he didn't need the full constabulary uniform. "Good thing, too," the tailor said, lifting a measuring tape up to Thordric's chest. "I don't believe I have any small enough. No, indeed, it will have to be a plain jacket. Though in a boy's size, I think." He took the measurement, scribbling the number down in his leather-bound notebook. Thordric craned his neck to try and see what it was, but the tailor held his hand up. "Please, sir, you shouldn't trouble yourself with the details. Leave that to me." He turned to Thordric's mother then and dropped his voice slightly. "Are you sure he's 14? He looks to be no more than 12 at the most, if I'm honest, ma'am." "I'm 14 and a half," Thordric said indignantly. The tailor smiled faintly and carried on taking measurements. A few hours later, Thordric came out with his new uniform in hand, ready to head home. But his mother caught his arm and took him to the barber shop instead. "What are we doing here?" he said, standing in front of the entrance, looking at the red and white pole spinning around and around on the wall. "You'll want to look smart tomorrow, won't you, dear?" she said mildly. The barber found fault with him too, complaining that Thordric's hair was in such bad condition that he couldn't possibly cut it into any of the regular constabulary styles, though it was not for lack of trying. After 3 hours growing increasingly hot and flustered, he'd declared the only thing he could do to make Thordric look smart was to shave it all off. "Oh, do stop fussing, Thordric," his mother said after the deed had been done. "If that's what the good barber thought best to do, then it was best." But it's so short. All I have is stubble. Everyone is going to laugh at me." "Nonsense," she chided. "It looks very smart. I'm sure that no one will say anything bad." Unfortunately for Thordric, she couldn't have been more wrong.